Okay, hello everyone again. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today morning or tonight. And my name is Yulia Petrachuk. I'm the artistic director of the Lyrica Classic Entertainment. And this is my colleague, Carlo Mahfouz.
And I'm the Director of Innovation and Strategy at Lyrica. And thank you so much for joining us today.
And before we start, I remind you that you have to choose the right language to listen to. The option Russian or English is listed in your screen's down menu if you click on the globe icon. You can also use Q&A chat to ask questions during the session that our guest will answer at the end of the interview. Maestro, you don't change anything. I see that you are looking there.
I wouldn't be careful enough anyway.
So our today webinar with Maestro Amaury du Closel is a part of the international virtual project Spread New Music to the World. This is a collaborative artistic program between Russia and the United States with the support of the US Embassy in Moscow. And it features the new American oratorio, Requiem for the Fallen, by American-Belgian composer Emmanuel Dubois. You can find more information on our website, www.lyricaclassic.org. And our guest today is a French conductor and composer and producer, I can say, Amaury du Closel. Hello, Maestro, again. It's an honor. It's an honor to have you with us today. And Carlo will introduce you a little bit more.
Yep, thank you so much for joining us. And a quick introduction. Amaury du Closel studied composition with Maxsa Dойча and conducting at the Royal Conservatory of Mons with Alexander Mirat, and in Vienna with Karl Oesterreicher and Sir Charles Mackerras. He was also an assistant conductor at the Orchestra Symphonique et Lyrique de Nancy, and won the second international competition for conductors, master players in Lugano. He has conducted more than 80 orchestras in Europe and Asia throughout his career, including l'Orchestre Cologne, la Sinfonietta de Picardie, and la Philharmonie de Lorraine. He has taken many leadership roles as musical director of Camerata de Versailles, Paris Chambre Opera, and the Lyrica company Opéra Nomade. As a composer, he has created around 30 opuses, including orchestra and chamber music. He has also composed for the silent film The 10th Symphony by Abel Gance. In 2003, he founded the Festival Forum Voix étouffées, which aims to promote composers' music that fell victim to the hands of Nazism. In 2020, he performed at the famous Amsterdam Concertgebouw with the Berliner Symphoniker, and will begin next year's season with her orchestra Les Metamorphoses at the Rem Opera. As well, he will collaborate with the Calabria Philharmonic Orchestra in Italy and the Prussian Chamber Orchestra Prenzlau in Germany. Maestro, would you like to add anything?
Well, first of all, thank you very much to have invited me to take part into this seminar. It's a great honor for me too. It's a great pleasure to. Well, actually, the concert you're referring to at the Concert was actually postponed because of the COVID and coronavirus crisis. Like many other, yes, like many others this year. But I hope we can make it next year or in today's time.
Hopefully.
Anyway, it was of course a big honor to be invited to conduct in that hall. As it had been, of course, when I conducted the same orchestra, Berliner Symphoniker, in the Berlin Philharmonie 2 or 3 years ago. What can I say? What can I add, actually?
Let's play a recording from one of your concerts, actually from your festival. Carlo, can you please put it here? And then we'll continue. Okay. Okay, so it's very beautiful music. Tell us about this performance.
Yeah, actually, you couldn't have done a better choice, because in this excerpt of a recent concert, it was 2 years ago in one of the biggest festivals in France, we performed this work by Schreker, Franz Schreker, who's a composer absolutely unknown, because he was a victim of Nazism, and because he was a Jew, and he died in 1934. So it shows first my interest in new repertoires. Second, this is my own orchestra, Les Metamorphoses. Okay. And so it's the result of 35 years of working as a independent conductor, I always created the tools I needed for developing projects, especially orchestras, and the touring opera company that you mentioned, Opéra Nomade. And it shows also my interest, I think, in transmitting the values of what music is. Actually, it's not only playing, performing well-known composers, and which is the tendency and a trend which is absolutely mortal, lethal, I think, when we perform only Mozart, Brahms, Beethoven, and this sort of composer. Music is much wider, has much wider scope than that. And I would incite, of course, all participants of this webinars to try to find ways to approach new music, to be curious, to develop projects around new goals, new connections, new repertoires, etc., and to consider themselves as entrepreneurs.
Interesting. Okay.
Absolutely.
So about composers, do you accept works by different composers, or you're looking for them by yourself? How the process is usually going? How you
mean
to perform?
For the work I choose for the programs, for my programs?
Yes.
Yes. Basically, I choose. I try first to. Well, I have different series of concerts. The ones I organize in this Forum Voix étouffées, or in English, Stifled Voices Forum, which refers to the fact that the voices of these composers were absolutely stifled by either Nazis on the one hand, or totalitarianism on the second hand, because we are also very interested in Russian music from the early 20s, for instance. We've performed works by the first piano concerto, for instance, by Mosolov, works by Shostakovich, of course, but many other composers of the Russian period before Stalinism. And we are interested in works of composers who were banned in their countries because they were Jews, because they were political opponents in Spain, in Italy, in wherever there were authoritarian regimes. And I want to keep a connection from this period, political period, to our period, to establish a link. And very often I commission works to young composers for my programs. And especially we have every second year we have a festival. So we'll have, for instance, a festival in Strasbourg, where we are established. We'll have a festival in 2021. And there will be certainly a new work, a new commission to a composer, based on the idea that on the themes, on the topic of the festival. So it's a way to establish a connection between the past and the present. Well, as you know, freedom is something you have to fight for at any time. And so for me, political, it's also another aspect of my personality, so to speak. Politics and music are very close, are very menus, intertwined, whatever you call it. And it's important. It's for me this forum is really a beautiful occasion to demonstrate, because we organize also conferences, international colloquiums, we publish, etc. And we work at a European level. I mean, I think I started in 2003, and since 2009, we've been supported by the European Union, so that we've been able to organize concerts in many European countries, establishing contacts with many European organizations, not only music organizations and orchestras, but also museums. For instance, in Auschwitz, we regularly go to Auschwitz with our musicians to perform, either in the near to the camp, or with the local music school, or etc. etc. We do that in France, in museums, in concentration camps, and that's a way to establish the connection between music of the period, which one sometimes speaks about this this history, and the history of Shoah, for instance, which was very central in our activities, of course. So it's for me, it's a lot of most interesting things, and we discover a lot of this song, for instance, by Schreker is a masterpiece. It's never played. Nobody sings it. It's a shame, and it's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's amazing what you're doing, and thank you so much from the music world to you, and people like you who basically can give us this opportunity to hear this music and in quality performance. So do you have how people can participate at these festivals, and your concerts and programs? Can they audition, or how do you choose the soloists?
It's rather, I'm rather open actually. I mean, there's a website with an email, and anybody is, of course, invited to write to me, and then we'll see. And of course, I cannot promise anything, but
of course,
if someone is interested, of course.
Do you hold any auditions separately?
We do auditions, mostly for the touring opera company that I lead. But within an audition, of course, we can add singers or instrumentalists who can play for us on other topics and for other projects, of course. Yes, we do also auditions.
Okay.
I can give you the website address, which is www.voix étouffées. It's complicated because it's French.
No, we already provided this link.
Provide it yourself because it's easier.
The link is in the chat, so please
check it out.
Check it out.
So yes, so you mentioned a little bit about entrepreneurship, and this is I think a key topic for today, in how the artists navigate this world, and it would be interested to hear a little bit more about that.
Yes, it comes from my own experience. When I studied music, and that's also, education is something I would like to address, of course, but I started rather late, actually. I started early with the piano, piano lessons, but as far as writing and composing and conducting is concerned, I started actually rather late, and in schools that were not that were from very good level, but that were not the best institutions. It's something I must say first. I didn't study at the conservatory in Paris, for instance, but I studied with one of the best masters you could imagine. When you think what Max Dойча represented, and I would say a few words, you know, just behind me, you have his portrait at the back, and he was a pupil of Schoenberg. So through him, I'm so to speak, a grandson of Schoenberg, musically speaking. And my education as a composer was I owe him this relation to this Austrian tradition. He was a great composer, a great teacher, and he had a lot of very important pupils, students. But he was also connected with the whole story of the second Viennese school that he explained, and he explained, for instance, how he worked with Webern, with Berg, with of course Schoenberg, Eisler, with a lot of composers of the period that interests me very much. And my own style as a composer comes from the lessons I took from him. So I missed something in my education, that is the network that you establish when you go to a big, renowned institution like Berlin, like Vienna, like even Paris, of course, London. So I realized rather quickly, actually, that's good. My career would be something I had to build my career on myself and by myself. And that's why I decided to be, and I didn't decide anything, actually. It's a sort of fate. I mean, I realized that if I didn't become an entrepreneur, that is someone who founds and who finances and who develops his own projects, and he found I wouldn't do anything, and it would be better in that case to change job and to be, because I was also educated as a lawyer and in political sciences, which is something I never regretted, because it helped me very much. After, you know, you understand a lot of, you understand much more in that case as a simple musician who has no education on these topics. You understand, for instance, you understand how administration works and how you can establish connection with the bureaucracy with other enterprises, sponsors, and so that's a very useful tool, actually, for what I did, and what I'm still doing, because I'm still, you know, I go fishing every day for sponsors, and as we do all.
Yes. Yeah.
But you need a spirit for that, and you need to understand that you're not wasting your time. Actually, the life of a musician, even if you are, for instance, a composer in an institution, American institution, you spend most of your time as a conductor. I mean, sorry. In an American orchestra, you spend your time, you know, running after sponsors and trying to raise funds, so actually music represents about 20% of your time or 30% of your time. So there are not so many differences between the way a great institution, a big institution works, and how someone with projects who develops through entrepreneurship his own project work. I have an office, I have a small administration, etc., which I've developed throughout the years, and that's it. But I encourage young artists to really think in terms of marketing, because the competition is so big now. You see, for one job of conductor in a remote orchestra anywhere in the world, you have 400 candidates. 400 applications.
Yeah.
If you're the lucky one who wins, that's wonderful. But I'm not even sure that it's worth it, because it depends, of course, at the level of the orchestra and whatever you want and you can achieve with it. But if you are among the 399 people who remain out of the game, you have to do something to be able to work.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean for when I say that you need to understand what an enterprise is, to create your own enterprise, your own project, and to learn how to finance, to learn how to administrate it. So that's what I've done all my life. And as I say, I don't regret it, because we have now a very successful orchestra that performs in the best festivals in France today. And I just formed it 3 years ago. It's a miracle to do something that quickly.
Very inspirational. To hear. I hope for everyone. And do you recommend basically the artists to receive another education just in case, or to help actually, in the entrepreneurship, like you mentioned, you had another education.
Can't hear you.
Amaury, we lost you. Can you hear us?
We'll be back. Amaury?
I think we're having some connection issues.
Yeah, so basically, while we are waiting for Amaury, I will also, as a performer, here he is back. Okay. Okay, so basically, would you recommend, we didn't hear you, so would you recommend for the artists to receive another education, maybe in another field, just in case, or to help, in the entrepreneurship?
I think it's important, yes. Because being simply a musician, you're working all day long on a Beethoven sonata, and you're just informed of Beethoven sonatas or Mozart sonatas or whatever, and you work in a small world and in a reduced world. You have to open your mind anyway on other topics, even if it's wonderful to play Mozart all day long, of course. But you understand what I mean. It's really a matter also to discover things and to relate music to the present world. So I would yes. I know it's not easy, because when you have to learn an instrument, when musical studies are very time-consuming, very much time-consuming, and it's not easy to have time to do something else. But there are certainly possibilities, if not to follow courses at university, but to find a way to teach oneself this marketing and this entrepreneurial aspects that was developing.
Well, to create opportunity for yourself, it's a very very important skill today. And as you mentioned, we have very big competition, and only a few lucky ones having agents who can basically find for them opportunities. And even though if you have an agent, still you have to find the opportunities. And here you have to think a little bit from the perspective of an businessman, practical things.
You're really to be a businessman, yes. I'm pretty sure of it. And an agent is wonderful if you're on top of the list, but if you're at the bottom of the list of an agent, it's exactly like as if you didn't have an agent at all. It doesn't do anything for you. It's very clear. So you're your best agent, actually.
So when you audition people, you mentioned for it your opera productions, etc. So what the first thing you are looking for when you hear a singer audition? Is it first perfect technique, or it has to be just a wonderful artist? And it's more like interesting to listen the singer, even if it's not perfect with technique or with diction or pronunciation.
For me, the most important thing with singers, and maybe we can develop this topic a bit later in terms of education, is the ability to pronounce the language they're speaking properly.
Okay.
To be understandable, to know how to project the voice according to the language.
Mm-hmm.
And I would advise everyone, every musician in the world, to study to speak a minimum of 4 languages, including one's own one, Italian,
Mm-hmm.
German,
mm-hmm.
French, English, of course. So that makes 4.
Mm-hmm.
And to be really competitive in these 4 languages. I see so many French singers, but also coming from other countries, who believe they speak Italian perfectly, which is absolutely not the case.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't speak exactly and properly, when I mean perfectly, properly, it's just an understatement. But you speak perfectly the language, you solve most of the technical problems that the singer has, because the stresses of the language comes exactly with the stresses of the music. A composer is not naive. Of course, he writes music according to the language he uses. So if you don't speak exactly, if you don't put the accents, the prosody, the text,
Mm-hmm.
exactly fitting the music, you're lost.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates a lot of technical problems afterwards. So
the word is the most important. It comes first.
The word comes first, and not only the word. Especially, you see so many people also who don't speak a language, who can pronounce it properly, but they don't know exactly what the words mean. And singing, you sing in relation to the meaning of the word.
Mm-hmm.
If you put the meaning at the wrong place, it doesn't mean anything. So it's a very important work that the singer has to do when he prepares himself or herself for a competition or an audition or, of course, a part. This is really to be very, very precise in these terms. So for me, it's really a big obstacle to I cannot engage people who don't do that. And then I'm interested, of course, in the voice color and in the expression, in all the other musical aspects of singing.
Mm-hmm.
But you know,
mm-hmm.
yes, we know I know, and we all know actually, that in 4 bars, if a singer will fit or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but if a singer has an accent, well, and that's kind of like a normal, for a foreign singer to sing in another language. But it's you can see that singer understands what he or she sings about and pronouncing clearly. Will it be an issue? And Maestro disappeared again.
Let's give him a second, I think.
Okay.
I hear you there.
Oh, okay. We see you
Okay,
now.
that's fine.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Yes, I think it's my own connection, which is not very stable.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yes, no. For me, if an accent is not a problem,
Mm-hmm.
Of course, provided it's not too obvious. But
So
but as I said, it's the meaning of the words and the wording also in the prosody, which are very important when I choose to sing. And of course, the technical ability to sing properly what is written in the text.
Yeah.
So we already mentioned your festival, with Européen Voix étouffées. So why did you start, first of all, this festival? What was the idea? Well, I mean, what gave you this idea? Yeah. So why this particular music? Because I know it's very difficult to promote this genre, and this music, because we already said, like, nobody knows about it. So what difficulties you are facing and how you deal with them?
Well, I try to make a long story short, because I started being interested through my master, actually, my master Max Dojcha. I started to be interested, of course, I wasn't very interested in Central European music and Russian music, and I'm still am. And I discovered the music by Schreker. I mean, exactly this piece that you put, you couldn't have taken a better example, because it really started my interest in this music. And when I realized that such a work existed that I didn't know, I was a professional musician, I was supposed to know a bit about music, no? And I had missed this work, but it's impossible. How is it possible? So I started, to dig a bit and to dig more. And the more I dug, I found other composers, for instance. Can you see it, or is it upside down? Who is a marvelous composer. For instance, Victor Ullmann, Schoenberg, of course.
Yeah.
But Ullmann was murdered in Auschwitz, and he composed actually this the opera which is on this CD. He composed this opera, the Kaiser von Atlantis. He composed it in a concentration camp in Theresienstadt.
Wow.
And the music is absolutely extraordinary. So I discovered actually over 200, 400, anyway, a big number of Jewish composers that have been totally victims of Nazism. And I decided to write a book about them because nobody did it. I waited for about 10 years, and 10 years later, nobody had written anything about this topic. So I decided to write and to make a book, which would be a reference book, quoting a lot of musicians and their works, examples, etc. And I thought at that time that it was very good to write, but it was even better to play and to perform the music. And it led me to the creation of this Forum Voix étouffées, the Stifled Voices Forum, in 2003. And then we established, and I did it with the help of the Austrian authorities, the Kulturforum, Österreichischer Kulturforum in Paris. And and then we developed it in a series of programs.
Oh, again, we have an interruption. Let's wait for a few seconds.
Maybe we lost you again.
Yes.
Just the last phrase.
Just the last phrase.
Yes, we started, having this festival every second year, and then we started to work at the European level, as I told you a bit before. And then we are expanding in France, in regions. We're trying to promote this music through different channels in the region where we are established, but also through in other, of course, in other regions and with other partners, with memorial partners, for instance, museums, in educational partners, because we do a lot of education against anti-Semitism, for instance, throughout this this topic. We work a lot also for freedom, for explaining what freedom means and freedom is in relation to totalitarianisms and authoritarian regimes. As I said, it's both a musical and a political project. And we find, of course, we're sponsored by many sources of funding, and among other, of course, the Foundation for the Memory of the Shoah, but also with other partners. And we discover every day. We discover. If I would give you. I would just give you the list of the names for the program which we are going to perform in Germany, in Spain, and in France at the end of January.
Yeah, we have this list. We will share it on in our messages to our attendees, so that they can read them and search about them, because just to pronounce them, it's very difficult to really to remember. Plus new names, nobody knows them, unfortunately. So this is like really amazing job. Congratulations. So what is I know, again, like as I mentioned, it's very difficult to promote it, so I guess do you have help by like a governmental help maybe to promote these kind of events? Do you have support of the countries?
We have the support not of the Ministry of Culture, not yet. Maybe after tomorrow I can tell you, yes, we have a strong, because we have a meeting in 2 days' time with the Ministry of Culture. But we have the support of the city Strasbourg, the city of Strasbourg. We have also the support of the region, which is also important for us, and on top of that, we have the support of the European Union, which is very important, not only spiritually, but also financially. So it's because, and for a good reason, which is exactly the goal for which I promote this music. Europe is interested in promoting the European idea and to develop the European idea among the population through culture. And they believe that our project, because we mix music and civic, political, if you want, institutional or historical explanations, helps. We contribute to the education of the youth, of education, especially we go, of course, in schools. We speak with students, etc., etc. And Europe believes very much that our project can help them in this perspective.
Are you planning also to do like more virtual events, and not only just regarding the current situation with the virus, but I think it would also bring more younger generations to this program and create more awareness of what you are doing. Do you have any plans with that?
You're right. I mean, you know, I'm from an older generation, so I have to adapt. I'm like an old crocodile who has really to adapt to survive. And I'm sure using virtual tools like streaming, etc., is certainly a solution or a possibility to really bring awareness, as you say, to different audiences and to try to attract different audiences. The fact is, we are just at a moment of transitions, because I would like also to change the way we organize our concerts. Not only because we do them, you know, in the classical form. Musicians come into the stage, they sit, the conductor comes, we play 2 or 3 weeks, and then everybody goes back home. I would like to do something different now, to also change the format and the content of our concerts itself, and it will include, of course, shooting the end broadcasting this concert, streaming or live or whatever. Yes, but for us it is a transition period because of the COVID. So since everybody had nothing to do, I gave a lot of thought of what we could do after the crisis.
Yes,
we had a lot of time, so it's better to use it.
That's true. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and tell us a little bit more about your orchestra, Metamorphoses. So, is it chamber orchestra or full symphony?
No, it's a chamber orchestra, and if I may say, it's a very personal project in the sense that, as I say, I'm from the older generation, and I will retire not that far away, not that long away. And I thought, yes, I've spent my time creating things, creating institutions, so opera companies, a singing academy, an academy for singers, and which is still active very much, which is part of our lyrical activities. And I thought, yes, I need an orchestra now, a young orchestra, I mean, with younger players, because they are better educated than the ones I had 30 years ago when I started. They are also not, I mean, working with musicians who were from the older generation was not something neither easy nor interesting sometimes, because you know there was a sort of routine and a sort of
of course.
A sort of yes, we know everything, and don't try to teach us anything and whatever. With younger people who are more flexible in a sense, but also they know more. They are better educated also in the sense that they've been working on different styles. They've been educated in performing Baroque music, and that's also another topic I would like to address for conductors, for instance. So my idea was to create this orchestra to transmit my experience and to do it with people who would understand really what I wanted, and how we could develop through them a big and really big project for an orchestra. And I must say it succeeded. We are really succeeding to do it. We have musicians of very high level, much better level that we had 30 years ago.
Okay.
It goes with a competition. You know, it's a Darwinian system. I mean, the best succeed, the best survive, and everyone understand that now. 30 years ago, that was not the case. There was a lot of work, and I mean, people, even bad musicians could work without problem. Which is not the case anymore now. So the idea is to choose a group of a pool of about 50 musicians, and I mean, the better proof and better evidence, the best evidence I can give you regarding the level of musicians is that I lose regularly some of them to big orchestras. They are engaged as permanent musicians in big orchestras. My first oboe, for instance, is now in the Lyon Opera House Orchestra, which is one of the best orchestras in France. Another one has been engaged, the double bass player has been engaged in a very good chamber orchestra, etc., etc. That shows the level of musicians who are trying to hire and work with. But I want also to work with people who understand the spirits on working on new repertoires, as I explained to you. As I see the new repertoire we do, for instance, with the Forum, and it's amazing. You know, we did 2 months ago, just in early October, when in between the end of the first COVID crisis and the beginning of the second one, we had a concert with the same lead, by Mahler, Zemlinsky, and a work by a composer called Rudolf Karel, who died in Theresienstadt also. And I mean, some of the musicians came to me after the concert just for thanking me, telling them that it's wonderful to learn new works, to discover new composers. And I want young people to understand that they need to remain curious, to remain open, to try to find new repertoires, to develop by themselves this curiosity, and to develop also by themselves, when they study, the curiosity of working in different styles. So our orchestra works not only on music of the 20th century, but also in Baroque music. And that's something you can do if you are experienced enough and if you are knowledgeable enough on the Baroque interpretation. And it's a new world also. It's a big and a very big experience. And a very
there are a lot of unknown music, Baroque music as well.
Yes, but it's not, I mean, when you work with modern instruments, you have to, and a usual string orchestra, for instance, has a repertoire that starts with, let's say, with Schumann or Chopin, or I mean, the Romantic period up to the end of the Romantic period. So it's a very narrow repertoire, in fact, and they play with a lot of vibrato, and they find, of course, the conductors ask for that sort of sound, very rich, which is historically totally false, totally out of, because vibrato is something that appears with the 20th century and not with even Brahms music was played without vibrato. So this is something you have to experience with the musician to see whether they, in a normal orchestra, in a routinier orchestra, you'll have certainly problems to change the sound of the orchestra and to explain to them that they have to change the way they are playing. But with younger players, they are open to that. And I remember a terrific, wonderful experience I had in Turkey with a Turkish chamber orchestra in Izmir, a very good one. But usually they played with the conductors from the old German school, you know, with their roll a bit pesante, and well, you can imagine what I mean. And we had in the program the main work was the Symphony by Haydn. So they started to do it like this. So I went up to the end of the symphony, and I had something which sounded very well, but totally Brahmsian. And I just said, well, it's very good. Okay, we can do that. I'll just go back to my hotel and rest, and you will do whatever you want. But you played very well, but it's totally out of style. So I suggest we try to change a few things. And in 1 hour, we had totally overturned the sound of the orchestra, and we had turned it into a Baroque one. But to do this, you have to know the tricks. You have to explain how to play without vibrato, how to play in first position, that you have to play in the first position. You have to play with as many open strings as possible. You have to play with long bows and speed without weight. You know, a lot. It's something you have to, that is based on my experience working with the string orchestras, of course, and symphonic orchestras. But you have to know, as a conductor, all these aspects of the way sound is formed and by the string instruments. If you master that, you can explain it to an orchestra who's ready to change. It's very quick, and very often the musicians are totally transformed, and they understand that they have reached a new level of understanding in the music they are playing, because they hear. They just simply realize by their ears that they have something totally different and totally live and totally totally in phase, and totally, and it's every time it's a tremendous experience.
Yeah, well, it's amazing.
But it's based, you know, on education. You have, I mean, when I was educated as a conductor, I was never told about these things. And I had to discover them progressively through listening, through looking at people, how they did, through asking questions to musicians to know how we could reach such a sound. But that's my generation. For the younger generation, but I have, as I said, an academy for conductors and singers, an opera academy, and I've noticed that most of the conductors we have had in 20 years, about 20 years that we exist, have absolutely no inkling about these questions and the how to realize technically a sound, or to change a sound, and technically how do you can realize this ambition of having an orchestra playing really in the style of the music, as it's we are very in depth with the Baroque movement in this sense, because they told us that music was also different, as was not the music we thought it was. It was something different, depending on the period and the style. It's not a matter of playing of authenticity and to play as in the 17th or 18th century, but you have to change your mind, you know, just like this. And when a young orchestra follows your instructions and follows you in this goal, it's always very exciting.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, we obviously have a lot to learn.
Yes, of course.
And it will always, will be like endless.
Yes, but it means also that when you are even if you are in the best schools in Germany, as I said at the beginning, you have to be aware that you don't learn everything. So you have to be curious by yourself and to find also, to educate yourself on the topics which are missing, which are not part of the educational system where you are.
Yeah. Well, Maestro, unfortunately, we have to finish our conversation. Time passed very quickly. Yeah, and there is a lot of the questions that we still wanted to ask you, but I hope we can do another session and learn more about you and your musicians and what you're doing. So thank you so much, for your contribution to the contemporary music world and just in general musical world and education. This is amazing what you are doing, and please continue, and we wish you health and strength and very interesting projects in the future. So we will follow this webinar with an email to everybody who attended our session, plus the video will be available on YouTube, who would like to watch it later. So we will follow with all your contact information. In case people would like to submit some materials for auditions, or check your website and websites of the festivals. As well, I know that you're teaching, so we will provide your contact information if somebody would like to take some masterclass with you, especially today it's possible thanks to the technology. So,
any closing word, Maestro? Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I just want to thank you all for this very interesting experience. It's my first webinar, you know. So.
Okay, congratulations.
That's awesome.
Well, it's a good pleasure, and congratulations for a beautiful project also that you have in this respect.
Thank you so much. We're so happy to have you.
Yeah, well, it's an honor. Well, thank you so much, and thank you everybody who attended today our webinars. And please join us next Saturday, December 12th, in the morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time Zone, or at 5 in the evening in Moscow, and we will meet artists of the virtual project Requiem for the Fallen and the composer of the oratorio, Emmanuel Dubois, and we will discuss his composition. He will tell us the story about how he composed it, and we will share with you how this project happened and what difficulties we have, because it's also for us a first time like virtual, big virtual collaboration. So it's new and it's exciting. So you all are welcome to attend, and Maestro, of course, as well. Yeah, it will be interesting. Actually,
Send me an invitation.
Of course, yeah. I will send you an invitation. Yeah, of course. So thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day or evening, and we will see you soon again.
Have a great one, everyone. Thank you, Maestro.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.